All right, this is our review, part one. Just a heads up, this is in class. Okay. All right, wherever you're at, go ahead and with the person that you're working with, or people you're working with, go ahead and just compare answers. Come up with your group's answers. Okay, your group's answers there. Make sure they're the same, and then make sure we have one person that's designated as the answer keeper there. Okay? Make sure we factor that bottom right.
Why?
Oh, true.
You want to see graphic code?
No, hold off on that because it involves this part, slant asymptote, which we haven't done yet. Yeah, don't do that part. Yeah.
I always forget.
Good question.
What'd you get?
Who is it? It's such a like Ron. Steph Curry. It's the Los Angeles Lakers and the
Whose team?
Warriors, Golden State Warriors.
Okay. Are we ready? Are y'all ready? All right, let's see if we can go through some of these together. Here's how the scoring will work. For every one you get correct, give yourself 10 points. It'll make sense kind of as we go towards the next section, okay? So as you go down, 10 points per one, and just keep it as we go, okay? Before we go into the Family Feud part, I am going to teach the slant stuff. So hold off on that until we go through this. First of all, we want to factor, right? And when we factor, that helps us with the vertical asymptotes, which would be what?
-1 and 1.
Good. Any questions on that? Cool. Give yourself 10 if you got that right. Should be -1 and 1. The horizontal asymptote would be what?
None.
Be none, right? So be careful. If it's on the bottom, greater on the bottom than the top, that would be y equals 0. This one would actually be none.
So, like, do we have 60 points now, or do we have 20?
So this is 20. Each part of this is graded.
Not group 10. Or it's group 10.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
So 10 to 20. Okay? X-intercepts, we set the top equal to 0. Good. And what would that equal, Jeff?
It would be 0.
0. Good. And so on the test, I'm expecting just 0, 0 in parentheses. Okay? Y-intercept, we plug 0 in for X. Good. You could do it from this one or this one, but this would be 0 over 0 squared minus 1, but 0 over a number would be what? 0 still. Yeah, so we would just say 0, comma 0. Is there a hole? Was there anything canceled? No. So we put none. And is there, what's the domain?
All real except just not equal to 1 negative.
Good. So we could say all reals except x cannot be equal to 1 or -1. Some of you, and I saw it, said it was from -infinity to -1, -1 to 1, 1 to infinity. I will take that as well, okay? With a u's in the middle. All right, out of that 6, give yourself whatever your total is out of 60. And what I'd like to do is this. Let's just go ahead and graph what we have. So we've got 1, -1. We've got a point at 0, 0. Now this is where it becomes a little strange, okay? And I want to make sure you understand there's one of these. And I will tell you, in the slant, in finding the slant, you've got to find it. It's going to be a challenge question in graphing it, okay? Follow me on this, so it's not make or break. If you miss the slant asymptote, you could still get an A, okay? We're good on that. But there is one on there, so I want to make sure I set you up for success. If the top is 1 degree greater than the bottom, if the top is 1 degree greater than the bottom, we have what we call a slant asymptote. And this is the last new thing we're going to learn. In doing this, what we're going to do is take the bottom and divide it into the top. Okay? So it should look like this. X squared plus 0x minus 1 is divided into the top of x to the third. Okay? Now what do we need to fill in here?
0x squared plus
Yep.
0x plus 0.
Good. Just fill in all that, right? All that mess. So the question becomes, what times x squared gets me x to the third?
X.
X, right? That's it. We should have x. So we're going to put it here. So then we distribute x times x squared to get me x to the third. X times 0x is 0x squared. And x times negative 1 is negative x. Good. And then we're just going to change these signs. Okay? So this cancels. 0 and 0 is gone. 0x plus x is x. Good. And we bring down the 0. F x plus 0. Okay? Now, the final thing we say is, what times x squared gets me x here? Nothing. So what does x turn into?
X over x.
X over x squared minus 1, right? Here's the thing. The remainder has no part in the slant asymptote. So once you get into the remainder, you can actually drop it, and the slant now becomes whatever's on top. Okay? So the slant would be y equals x. Okay? All right, we could look at another one like that because I know that that's a little weird. But we would just say y is equal to x, and then that would be it. Okay? So what that means is, what is the y-intercept? What's the mx plus b? What's the b part? Just 0, right? Because there's no number out here. So that means it crosses at 0. The slant does. What's the slope? Up 1 over 1, right? So we go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, because that's the slope, rise over run. So we have a slant asymptote that cuts it this way. Okay? How many regions do I have? Divided by my verticals. 3, good. We have 1. We have a middle that's 2. And then we have a third over here on this side. Okay?
Why do you go up 1 over 1?
Why do I? That's a good question because the slope, the mx plus b, the m, the slope part, is 1, which is rise 1, run 1, right? If it was y equals 3x over 2, I'd rise 3, run 2, right? That's how I would do that. That would work there, okay? And so what I would do is just graph in these 3 regions. You follow me? I'm going to do another one later on the podcast and whatnot. So all I would do, maybe on this, we just set up a T-chart, either on your calculator or it could be here. I'll do it on my calculator just so I can get that rep one last time. Show you. So I'd go in, put in x to the third. So I'll just put in parentheses x to the third. And then divided by, what was it, x squared minus 1, right? Minus 1, close it, graph it. Now this is going to look a little strange. Let's see if we can go to our Zoom standard. Let's see what we got. So it looks kind of funky, doesn't it? A little bit. So let's go to our second table, which gives us our T-chart here. And what you can do is just say, okay, negative 2 and negative 2.667. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll go negative 2 and a negative 2.67. All right, so we'll go negative 2. Negative 2.67 is down here. Since it's in this little region here, it's going to go down and approach the vertical, and it's going to also approach the slant. Okay? 1 point sufficient for these, especially since I see it on my graph. I just need to know like where it's at in each zone, right? So using your T-chart or plugging it in yourself, that's all I'm needing, okay? And then obviously this stuff, all right? So those 2 parts is all I'm looking for. Plus, again, remember the graph is a challenge question, okay? That's a big thing. 2 would be 2.67. So when I plug in 2, I get 2.67. So that would be like right here. So what's going to happen here? Yep, same thing. Yep. And then the middle's a little different, but did you see what it looked like?
Go like 0.5, like negative 0.5 and go
Yeah, negative 0.5 to the left, 0.5 to the right. And when you see it, it looked as though it rose right, fell left, kind of like a cubic in the middle. Okay, does that make sense? That one's probably a little trickier than what the test will be on, but I wanted to show you one that was linked to it. Okay, y'all are good? Okay, so out of 60, you should have gotten it. Give yourself those points. We're going to go ahead to the Family Feud part. Right now, you have 20 seconds to write down 3 answers, okay? You have 3 answers for this, and I want you to write these down. You're trying to get the answers that have the most amount of points, okay? Name something you get at the dentist that almost makes the trip worthwhile. Go. Write 3 things. You got 20 seconds as a group. One person in your group is writing. One person. One person in your group's writing.
A clean smile.
3 answers. 10. 10 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. The more people that put the answer, the more points you get. Okay, so it kind of works like this. These are the main answers. Don't tweak it now. You should have only put 3 down. And here we go. The number 1 answer was a toothbrush. If you put that down, give yourself 50 points. Yeah. Give yourself 50. Candy, give yourself 19.
No, I said sticker. Yeah.
What'd you say? Wait.
Clean teeth. We did good.
No,
It's like kid dentists. They give
I would say it's
no adult dentist would give you candy. I didn't think candy is ever
I don't make up things. I just show it to you. Okay? All right. Total your points there. That's your points. It's your points. All right. Here's the next one. Number 5. Number 5. Quick question before I let you go on this. Does number 5 have a slant asymptote?
No, the grade at the top's not bigger than the
Jared, the top has to be 1 degree higher on the top than the bottom. This one is not. So go ahead and attack this like normal. This one's number 5 on your review. So as you're doing it, feel free to go ahead and do your review one. If you do it on your desk, I'll stamp it off if you do it. Okay? Go. Y'all got 5 minutes. 5 minutes on this one. Yes, sir. Yeah. After it cancels out, you're exactly right. I'm actually just doing it right now. You're exactly right. So when it simplifies, you're going to plug in to the new one, not the old one. Okay?
We also figure everything else out based on the new question.
Everything is off the new one, other than the hole, right? Other than the hole.
Hold on.
getting no slant asymptote. No slant asymptote.
This would give you plus x instead of minus x. It's 5 squared. 5x. It has to be negative 5. Why? So it's x squared minus x minus 2. To get the minus x, not plus x, it has to be minus 5.
Make sure you factor
I
out.
don't know.
That makes sense. I can figure out something.
So how am I gonna know that? I don't know.
Just go try it. Your process is great. It's just that you just forgot to do that.
So for the words, it just
That means that the bottom's greater than the top.
So what if it's a negative 5? Coach, are we graphing?
Say again.
Negative 5.
Go ahead and graph it. If you're done, go ahead and graph it.
Love the X out of these numbers. What's X? Yeah, this factor.
But
Well,
you're
you
factor
factor
is negative 5.
So your process is great. Like Sophia, I was checking yours down.
Oh, yeah,
Just as you factor out a 3, you're welcome. Hey, make sure I've checked a couple people's now. There's been a couple groups. Make sure you factor a 3 on the top. Okay. And then, yeah. Yeah, I was, so like, yeah, these were correct. I was checking Sophia's. Those were right, just other than the fact that we got just
Yeah, I'm the weekend. I'm no smoke. Yeah, that's what.
yeah, what's up? Hey, could y'all use like 3 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you 3 more.
There are no lines. How is it lines they cross out?
That's the X,
So
right?
there's no
Oh,
holes.
the X one.
And you get the Y when you
There's one with negative 5. No,
the Y in the hole, you plug it back in. And then you
Oh,
get what the Y is.
Wait!
Set whatever you cancel out.
That's so
set that
dumb.
equals 0, x minus 5 equals 0.
So there's no for
And then you plug the 5 back into your thing for the x's. Whatever that is.
What?
It's 0.
Oh, I don't know what you just said. Wait, so there's no verb class.
There is a verb class in Java.
Jackson. I'm you. Whoa. So bottom
Do we have to have
so it'll
specific
be
points, or can I just draw
5, 3,
Well, let's look and see what you have. You know that the hole would be where 5. It would be 5 for right over here, right?
5, 0, 5, and negative.
That's the X, right? So it'd be 5 to the right. Oh, hold up. I'm looking at it backwards. You're right. Yeah.
just in the domain.
So hold up. I was trying to
Right, what are the
Yeah, you were right. I thought it
0,
was
negative
5 to
2.
the right.
5 to the right. So these are your verb classes, that's right. So 5 to the right. How are you looking at it? I'm looking at it.
They went to the first one.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's what I was looking at. I was like, looking at
They
it.
went like
Yeah.
7 to 5.
No, even look.
Hold on. 2 years ago, you
What's the
were
Y?
shoot. Yeah, they were like,
See what I'm talking about?
11 and 2. 11 and 3.
It'd be a point.
3.
How do you know when to start?
Okay, 5 is right. So 0 is incorrect. Because 5 needs to be plugged into
I know, but there's
X of the new equation, right? Of the new one. But he wants it to cancel, right? I'm gonna let you have it in form, right? Don't tell that to anybody else. The new one is 3 over x times x plus 4. I plug 5 in for these two x's to see what I get out. Okay. And remember, this right here is what I use to find everything else. The only thing that I use the original one in blue is to find the x of the whole. But then the y, I have to plug it in. Got it? So this makes it easy because then what are my vertical asymptotes? There they are, right? Horizontal, you already see
there is a whole.
right? So there we go there. And then x and y intercept. No slant, because it's got to be 1 degree greater on the top than the bottom. Okay? And there's only one of them, Jeff. There's only one of those. All the other ones will not have one. Those will be similar to
And the y-intercept. You multiply these? That's 189.
You plug 0 in for x,
Yeah, I did that. Okay.
and then
It just means
3 over 0 is no.
Yeah.
You can have that, right? Good. Hey, do this for me. If you could give me your attention real quick, we're going to roll through this fairly quickly. I love the conversation we're having. I wanted to make sure that you saw this, okay? So please ask me questions on this if you haven't. The blue one is the original one, once I factored, right? Some people forgot to take out a 3 on the top. If you've got a GCF or a greatest common factor, go ahead and factor it there. Once I take out that x minus 5, I'm left with the one that's over here in black. 3 over x times x plus 4. That means that since the x minus 5 cancels, that's my whole, right? But to find the y of my whole, I plug 5 back in to get 3 over 45. If you put a decimal, that's absolutely fine. And that would be your whole there, okay? So as you go down, I'm going to grade it this way. Each of these will be 1 point on the test. So this is out of 6 points. So go ahead and give yourself 10 for the game over each one that you have correct, okay? So the vertical asymptote would be 0, -4 from this part over here. The horizontal would be y equals 0. The whole would be here. The x-intercept, we plug the top equal to 0, which 0 equals 3. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't, right? So that means it would be none, okay? The y-intercept, we plug 0 in for x, but if we have 0 on the bottom, 3 over 0 is what? Undefined, it'd be none, right? Good. And in the domain, you could write it one of two ways. One of two ways, all right? Cool? Y'all have any questions over that part? Say that again, bro. The graph look like? Yeah, perfect. Anybody have questions on the characteristics before I do?
What's next to the -4 in your domain? Oh, never mind.
It's just like a squiggly.
Is 5 not part of it?
Oh, it should be. Yeah, you're right. You're right. This should technically be comma 5.
How is it 5 if they cancel out?
Yeah, good question. Because when we do this, 5 is going to be a whole. That basically it's just an open circle. 5, like you can't have a value of 5.
Right.
Because if you plugged it, even if it's back to the original, if I put it in 5, even though it's a whole, it's not a vertical asymptote, it would still produce an undefined answer. Does that make sense?
Oh, so even though it's not, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So this should be 0 to 5, and then 5 to infinity. Cool? All right? Coach wouldn't have gotten that domain right. Appreciate you, Jackson. All right, vertical asymptotes, we'd have one here at 0, one at -4, and then the horizontals at 0. Okay? Push this over. All right, everyone good there? I think, are there any other points that I have other than the whole, which is at 5 and 3/45? That's a whole there. Okay? Now, even though that's a whole, it's an open circle, that's where the graph is going to be up there. So it's going to just go downward and upward on zone 3. The question is what is happening with zone 1 and 2? Okay? So we do a little T-chart. Plug in, let's say, a value that's to the left of -4. Let's plug in -5 back into the bottom. And I end up getting -5 times -1. I think that's 3/5. So this would be -5 and 3/5, which would be up here, which we could graph like this. Okay? All right? Now, what happens in the middle, that's the question. Okay? And I would either look at your calculator or use a T-chart again and plug in, like, let's say, -2, -1, -3, and you could kind of go from there. Let's plug in -2 though. When we do that, we get 3 over -2 times 2, which would be 3 over -4, which is -3/4. It'd be like right here. And so as we look at our calculator and as we graph this, it's going to be like a little parabola that's going down, but it can't exceed those vertical asymptotes. Michael, thank you very much. Cool. Questions on that? If you got this part right there, give yourself and your team 30 points on top of what you got over here. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get 20 out of those 30?
Wait.
I got these two, right?
That's perfect. Yeah, for each zone. Each zone you give yourself 10.
Do we get points for the slant or
Wait, so is that
no
90?
slant, right?
Yeah, no slant. Literally on the test, Jackson, I'm going to help you. The one that has the slant asymptote,
We'll just be the.
I won't even ask for it. The one that has the slant, I'll say, here it is, and I actually have it like in bold letters. So you know, like this is the one. Okay.
So do you want?
6 of those and then the 3 of that.
90 total. 90 total. Good. All right, question 2. Tell me something you only do when you're sick. Go. It's a good one for us right now. Tell me something you do. Give me 3 answers. 3 answers. Okay? 3 answers.
Take medicine.
Write down 3 answers.
Wait, we gotta write them down.
Gotta write them down.
I feel like you don't beat
It's 10. 10 seconds. 6,
Only
5, 4,
you only do when you're sick.
3, and 2, and 1. Here we go. For additional points. Number 1, you nap. For 37 points.
What if you
You
said
bum at
sleep?
34.
What if you said sleep? So not
No, I'll take that. I'll take that. Sleep is fine. Take medicine, eat soup, home from work, or you go to the doctor. Give yourself the points that correspond to it there. Okay? All right, y'all good? Oh, hold up. Y'all got it? All right, here's what I want you to do. I think this is number 2 on the review. Is that right? Number 2, this one right here, okay? I want to make sure I talk through this one. This will be our last one for today. I'm going to give you 6 minutes to do this. First of all, how many solutions do I have on number 2? Yep, I think by the way, there's one of these on the test, okay? About one of these on the test out of the 6 problems. So here's what I want. Give me the 4 solutions, but start off by finding whatever the x-intercepts are on your calculator, and then use those in synthetic division, okay? So start with your calculator, plug up, the P over Q, that would be a heck of a lot with 66, okay? So go ahead and do it on your calculator first, and then go to synthetic, okay? Ready? And go.
Wait, what do you want us to do?
So what you'll do on your calculator side, I'll actually do this. I'll actually plug it in for us. So Ty, I'm literally going to plug this in, okay? So x to the 4th. If you're confused, I'll get you started here, okay? Squared plus 5x. So I'll just plug it in the way I see it, okay? You good so far? And I'm gonna graph it. Just gonna graph it. I like to start with Zoom Standard just to see if it touches at all at any spot, okay? See kind of touches where. Good. So in my mind, here's what I'm thinking, okay? I'm gonna put 2 here in my mind, okay? So I know one of them's 2.
Is that a guess or?
Oh, because it crosses, right? I mean, you see it, right? You could go to second, if you want to double check, you could go to like second trace and go to the zeros, right? We've done that before. But it's pretty clear. I mean, you could see it, right? I mean, you could kind of see where it's at. Then what I'm going to do is I want to see if there's another one that I can see. So I'm going to go to zoom out. And just hit it once. I'm just going to zoom out one more time. Yeah, zoom out just to see. Yeah, there's one right here. I think just the way it was zoomed out is a little different. So there's one there just on the looks weird because it's so far out there. So this one, I'm gonna look. I can look for this one, right? And that's where I can go to second trace. Go to find 0. It doesn't look like that. You want to know another thing I would do? Possibly, I would just say, okay, I'm going to go to second graph. Go to your table. This might be another way of doing this. Where's the x-intercept? Hey, this might be easier, y'all.
Where it says 0?
Yeah, because that's where it is. So 2, 0, we know is an x-intercept from, again, I went second graph, right, to that table. So that's the first one. And we knew the other one was on the negative side. So I might just keep going up and just saying, okay, can I find it? Obviously, I'm not close anywhere right now. Except until I get to negative 11, right?
So we only
Does that
have
make sense?
2.
Well, once you find 2,
And then that's my subject.
that's when you can know how to do
We found
synthetic.
it.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Ty, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Once you got those 2, plug them into synthetic, and then simplify, because once I get into a square, then I can use quadratic to simplify.
I don't want to
now use this.
Like x squared?
Yeah, so if this is negative 11, right?
Right.
I have 2 more that I need to find. But once I have 2 solutions, that would be like a quadratic, an x squared,
Oh,
that I can either solve by solving quadratic formula or factoring, right?
okay.
So I use one of those 3. If I can't factor, then I always try to go with that quadratic. Cool. How does this one feel, y'all?
Good.
You okay?
I just don't like
Did you hear what I was saying? Yeah. You put it, right? I did, yeah. When I did it, right, I went to the graph. I may see something that looks like this, okay? But go to second graph. Go to second graph there.
It's because I'm dumb.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Second graph.
It's plus.
Oh.
Yep.
Wait.
You see that there?
Yeah.
You see anything that has a y that's a 0? 2, it's because that's a t-chart. So what's one of your x-intercepts? One of your x-intercepts would be 2. Yeah. Go ahead and yeah, and then as you go up, you'll see that one's at negative 11, right?
So we can use this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then those are the 2 that you can plug in to synthetic, right? To start the simplifying process. Cool?
I didn't even know
Alrighty, is everyone good?
Hold on.
Hey, I'm gonna be quick here as you're finishing it. I know some of you are doing the quadratic formula. Just double check with me, and if you get this one right, I'll give you and your team will go 30 points on this. Okay? 2 and negative 11 are the 2 solutions from our calculator. Okay? So I'm gonna use synthetic by first plugging in 2. So I've got the ones on top, 1, 10, negative 10, 5, and negative 66. So I bring down, we're just using synthetic division here. I got that wrong again. 2, 12, 24, my fault. So this is 14, this is 28, this is 33, 66, and there we go, okay? The second one we plug in is what? Negative 11 for it, okay? Bring down the 1, negative 11, 1, negative 11, 3, negative 33, and we notice that this is a 0 as well. Once we get to this point, we notice that we have 3 terms, so now we have a quadratic, right? This is x squared plus x plus 3. Can I factor that?
No.
No, and Ty, this is what we were talking about. Once I've gotten it simplified down here, I can't factor this. We use the quadratic is what we were talking, right? So we would say -1 plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4. A times c is 3. All over 2a, which is 2. Okay? What's inside here? What would that produce? -11, yeah, which is an I. Very good. Which means, are they solutions? They're solutions,
Yes.
not x-intercepts. Not x-intercepts. Good. So we would say this is -1 plus or minus I squared of 11 all over 2. I would give this, I would also take -1/2 plus I square roots of 11 all over 2. That's just dividing the 2 out. And then I would just do the -1 here as well. By rule, this is important, by rule, if I have the positive one, I must also have the -1. So if 2i is a solution, -2i is a solution.
Can you write it this fully?
Over here,
Yeah.
I forgot this is 1 here.
Oh.
1 minus 4 times 3. There you go. Okay. Hey, do this. If you and your team got these two, give yourself 15 points. If you got all of them, give yourself 30.